Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to do some post-process work on this SpiderMan bars that I've 3D printed earlier. But before that, I want to show you a small defects on this 3D print, which is on the shoulder of this SpiderMan. As you can see, the sharp points just doesn't comes off really clean, so I had decided to fix this by using the paper clay that I have bought online. So I think the main advantage of this type of paper clay is that it hardens once it dries up. So you just need to lift this part into a place that has a good ventilations and also airflow for 1 or 2 days for it to dry up, and you are good to go. And not to mention that it also acts like a clay as well, so you can customize and also modify it into the shape and also sizes that you wanted, but in an easier and also more convenient way. So with that getting out of the way, let's talk about the 4 main steps for the post-process. The first one is prime and sanding. The second one is applying of the spray paint. After that, we need to do some detail painting if it's necessary, and finally applying the top coat. So we start off by priming and also sanding the models that we have right now. So before I apply a primer, I have chosen to use a filer to smoothen out the surface, especially the shoulder of the SpiderMan where I use the paper clay. I want to make a sharp point so that it is as symmetry as possible with the other side of the shoulder. As for the primer, I have chosen to use the Samurai Spray Putty primer, and the main function of the primer is to fill up the gaps between these layers so that it can cover up all these visible layers and give this model a cleaner look before we apply the spray paint on it. And when using this primer, it is very important that you spray in the right distance from your models and just apply a thin coat on it and wait for it to dry before sanding it. And as for the sanding part, you need to increase the grit size of your sanding paper each repetition, because the higher grit sandpaper will be finer. This will allow you to smooth out most of the rough surface first, which allows the details on your models to stand out more. And after this, it's just the repetition of these two processes. As this SpiderMan model has a very cool SpiderMan suit texture around it, I don't want to sand it too much until this detail is gone. But if you are going to print and paint a helmet with a glossy metallic surface look, you will definitely take much more time. After all, priming and sanding is a very time consuming process, so it definitely needs a lot of patience to get the surface finishing that you want. And so now our models is ready to be spray painted. During spray paint, the spraying technique is extremely important, as what is demonstrated here is wrong. I'm holding the paint too close to the model and causes all this dripping and all these accumulations of the paint in one part of the models, which will potentially covers up some of the details in that part. Unfortunately, I have encountered some problem with this Samurai branded spray paint. The paint just doesn't come out, and at the end of the day I just use Mr. DIY brand spray paint, which is much cheaper and also give us the desirable results. So I have learned this through the hard way, and you can see by spraying the base, I uses and follow the right technique throughout all this paint. I doesn't want to get too close to the models while painting, applying consistent paint on these models to create a thin coat each time. Lucky enough, at the end of the day, Mr. DIY Paint saved the day. Even though the color wasn't right, but I am pretty satisfied with this paint job, as this is my first time using a spray paint, and yeah. So we will move on to the next sections, which is detail painting. As for the detail painting, I used the acrylic paint from Artpac, and it was right until this moment I realized that it was a very bold statement to say that I wanted to post-process or even paint a Spider-Man, because all these lines on this Spider-Man bus is so hard to paint, especially when you need to paint the lines in the same width and also the same force. It requires a lot of painting technique and also practice, so this really took me a while. And after a few hours I was done, and I am so satisfied with the final result that I get, even though my painting technique wasn't there yet. And if you look closely to this model, you can see that there's some flaws, like the lines are not consistent and there's overlaying paint here and there. But knowing that this is my first time doing this paint and all this post-process, I'm pretty satisfied with the final results here. And now comes the last part, which is applying the top coat. For the top coat, I also choose a Samurai branded spray top coat with matte finish. And up to this point, I really learned some technique of spraying in the right way. So applying the top coat is very similar to applying the spray paint, but in here you doesn't want to apply it too aggressively. You just need to give it a very thin coat of this top coat to give it a very nice surface finishing for this model. So after a series of post-processing, this is how the Spider-Man bus looks at the end of the day. And to keep the video short, I will leave the final part and also the last steps in the next video, which is sticking this bus and also the base together. Of course, I will do a very quick test on this Spider-Man bus to see whether it qualifies to become a headphone stand. And I also will be giving a reviews on the overall experience throughout this printing and also post-process. So hope you all have a great day and see you in the next one. Peace.
We on the road, we stay fucking low. We be working hard, doing shit that you don't know. I be flowing on this beat, yeah, double H-O. Wrinkles on my clothes, cause I'll never ever fold. I like something green in my life, give me some celery. I'm a beast, you can fuck with me, yeah, I'm like Bruce Lee. All this